What's up, guys? This is Justin and
Doug,
bringing you another episode of the Call Center Chronicles. Doug, it's good to see you doing better. We're glad, not just me, but even the rest of the everyone out there in YouTube land. It's probably good, and glad to see you back.
glad to be back again. The reports of my death were grossly exaggerated. Didn't have the Rona.
Oh,
So,
that's good. I mean, I did hear Corona caught you, and it's now on life support. Now, before we do get started, I want to give a very special shout out to someone, my girlfriend, Monica. I love you. You mean everything to me. And yes, everyone, I do have a girlfriend. So sorry, ladies, and possibly guys out there, I am taken and spoken for, basically.
you
Uh,
heartbreaker.
huh? All right. So today we're going to be having a special reaction video to something a little unique. Doug, why don't you explain what we're going to be watching this evening?
Well, my son and I have the channel Old Gen versus New Gen versus Worlds, where we do a lot of video game walkthroughs or playthroughs, right? We've done a couple reaction videos. But we both are really highly interested in the paranormal and things surrounding urban legends and hauntings and things like that. So we segued away from that. We did something called the Dark Files. We filmed the first episode
Ooh, scary.
about something that's pretty much legendary of an urban legend that's right in my backyard, like literally right around the corner from where I live.
Oh, wow.
It's actually centered around something called the Midget Mansion. So without further, I'm going to go ahead and watch.
Okay, that's pretty scary and interesting. Let's let's go ahead and take a look at this video. And if there's some talking points there, let us know so we can go ahead and take a look and make talk about those talking points there. Okay.
All right.
All right, we're starting the video.
And gargoyles, and welcome to another episode of the Dark Files. In this first episode ever, we're going to cover the Midget Mansion. Nestled in San Antonio's medical district is the lost relic of the Midget Mansion, or rather, it's no longer standing. The Gillespie family first came to San Antonio via New York in the 1920s. He was a wealthy man and wanted the best of everything for his family. However, things took a rotten turn for the Gillespies, and not more than 20 years later, he was poor as a mouse and sold the palatial mansion to the Denor family. Mr. Denor was a wealthy man who had made his living starring in various Hollywood films as a midget, is what they were called at the time, but now more popularly referred to as the Little People. He began fashioning out the home to be smaller in stature, lowering the
Stop right there.
the chairs, the toilet seats.
So,
Okay, Doug.
Justin, in our politically correct climate, we can't call people midgets anymore.
That's
We
very
have to call
true.
them, refer to people as little people. But for the time frame that this legend started happening, politically correctness wasn't a thing. So they actually called the home the Midget Mansion, based on the fact that there were these two people of small stature living in the home.
Oh, okay.
All right? Let's roll.
The Wells. He had moved his love that he met on the set of The Wizard of Oz to his palatial home, and they started a family. He and the missus would have two daughters. The two daughters would not bear the curse of the small size, and they began to detest living in such cramped, small quarters. They would hire often staff that were of small stature, but also hired regular staff as well. They built homes on the stead, but they built them in the nature that a small person would want to live, even for the guest quarters, which did cause some strife. Then, one night, in a fit of rage, it is rumored that Mr. Denor came in and took a knife and slashed his wife, then his daughter, then his other daughter's throats, dragging them up to the stairs and putting them in the master bedroom closet. In grief and sorrow, after realizing what he'd done, took the knife and slashed his own throat. Several days passed. The neighbors would ask that the cops do a safety check. When officers arrived at the scene, they found nothing on the first floor. With weapons drawn, they went to the second floor, finding Mr. Denor in his own pool of blood. And there, in the closet, they found the scratches in the wall, in the wood, and the blood splatter. Notes written, "Help me," obviously by one of the daughters who had not died prior to the fray. So, my ghouls and gargoyles, I ask you, is it a tale of fact or fiction? Sitting today in our place is what remains. A street with quaint neighborhoods, manicured lawns, and perhaps buildings that still pay an homage to the old relic of the homes that used to sit there, the palatial Donor mansion. On this drive that might be quaint, or this walk that might be quaint, do the ghouls still rise? Do the servants that were caught in the fire of their own making, do you hear their cries at night? Do you hear the cries of Mr. Denor's daughters asking for mercy? Perhaps you think he didn't use a knife at all. Instead, as some said, he used an axe, and you can still hear the whack of the axe as it's being ground upon bone. His wife crying out for mercy. But no one came to the palatial home. No one came to save them. Now one has to ask themselves, do these people live in denial that live on Denor Street? Are they trying to keep secrets out or secrets in? Do the spirits stay trapped inside the land? Did the residents there know that the servants tried to burn down the home as a means of purging the land? This is where it is rumored that the home of the Denors actually was, on this drive, Denor Place, at the end of the street, on top of a hill, where tragedy met travesty. And perhaps this is the place, maybe just overgrown and overgrown, where it reclaimed the home. Is this where it sits now? Developers are certainly going to be ones to want to hush people as they want to sell new places. Again, my ghouls and gargoyles, is this fact or fiction? Only you can decide. And we'll see you next time on the other side of the light.
Okay, wow, that's deep. That's scary, and that is just did this actually happen? Is there any are there any is there any proof, any evidence of newspaper articles or anything of that time?
I look for something that would actually lend credence to the urban legend. As you know, I'm an investigative person. I'm not just going to accept something at face value. Now, it is a horrible, horrible tale, right?
It is. It's
But
gruesome.
this house stood. There are people who claim that they went there as teenagers. They're about my age, 49 and above, that were actually going out to this abandoned house in the 80s and the 70s, and that the cops would come and chase them away because they were out there trying to, summon up the spirits. And apparently, they would see things like the swimming pool in ruins, and all the little tiny guest houses that were built for the staff that were supposed to be for normal sized people, but it was built like normal, like tiny people. So they swear up and down they know this house stood, and it was literally around the corner and down the street from where I live right now. Now, I can't tell you this. I've had to walk down that street from one of my places of work after midnight, close to 3 o'clock in the morning, which is supposed to be the witching hour for, all intents and purposes for a lot of people if you believe in that stuff. And you can hear voices at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're not like normal voices, like a murmur or a siren or a scream.
A a scream.
Yeah. like screams, like someone's on fire type screaming. And when I did some investigating on this, Justin, one of the stories was that the staff got fed up with these little tiny houses, and in revenge, they killed the family. But then again, there's nothing there that shows there's no like newspapers or anything like that. So it's all urban legend, it's all conjecture.
It's all hearsay.
Yes.
So as far as we know, they probably just moved back to California, or they moved somewhere else. I mean,
Well, we know the house got set fire to. We do know that. But who's to say they weren't just trying to collect the insurance money?
true, because there's a lot of people who would do that on their homes, and there's probably a few business owners who would do that to their own restaurants or their own places of
Yes,
business.
exactly. And then here's the other thing. You know as well as I know, being the child of probably a protective parent. Parents will tell you stories and spin yarns to keep you from doing something you're not supposed to be doing, like going out to an abandoned house, having a few drinks, hanging out with your friends when you're not supposed to be there.
Yeah,
So this could just be another folk tale that
I
the
mean,
parents in this region told their kids to keep them from going.
that's true, man. I'm Hispanic, man. I grew up in a Hispanic household, and there's a they tell you things about like, oh, you don't do this, or this is going to get you the La Llorona or the Cucuy, just the monsters that go bump in the night.
Speaking of La Llorona, we have our own little Howling Creek here in San Antonio.
Really?
This we call the Creek de la Llorona, where they talk about it being tied to the old story from Mexico. So there's that. There's a story about the guy who showed up at El Camarancito dance hall, and he was all suave and dressed to the nines, and he seduced this young girl who wasn't even supposed to be there. They were dancing and dancing. Lightning struck. The lights go out. Smoke fills the air. They smell sulfur. All of a sudden, when the guy reappears, the lights come back on. It's the devil, and he walks out and clicks like hoofs out the door, and the girl passes out dead on the dance floor.
Died of fright.
That's a pretty scary story.
That is, man. That
And have you heard
is.
about the Donkey Lady Bridge?
The what one?
The Donkey Lady.
The docking lady, no.
So there's this lady and her family, and they run like this farm near one of the missions here in San Antonio. They're raising donkeys and goats. But the people there around there, the more upper crust, don't like the fact that there's these poorer people who are profiting from having these animals and these farms nearby. And they didn't much take to the family because they were from Mexico. The other people were German. So they attacked this family. While she was gone, they attacked her husband and murdered her 2 children.
Oh, wow.
She was coming back with her donkey in tow from running some errands. When she intersected with the kids, they set her home on fire. She ran into the flames with the donkey to try and save her children and husband, and was consumed by the flames herself, or so they speak, or they're not sure that she didn't mutate and become part of one with the donkey.
Oh man, that's brutal. I mean, who sets someone's house on fire? Who does that? What normal
Right?
people do
So
that?
the legend is, if you go out to the Donkey Lady Bridge and you shine your headlights and you honk the horn, you will see her appear.
Really?
They also say that if you try to throw a rock off the bridge, you won't hear anything because she'll catch it or throw it back at you.
That's pretty crazy.
So, I think we should launch a whole channel.
Doug?
I think we should call it the Dark Files.
Okay, there was a little bit of a lag there. Can you say that again?
I think that between me, you, and Trace, we should launch a whole other channel, a collaborative channel, and we'll call it the Dark Files.
I like that. That sounds like a good idea. Uh, that sounds like a really good idea. I am into the paranormal, and ever since I worked security, I believe in that kind of stuff more because I tell you what, there was a house along my patrol route that was really scary and eerie that no one went by and no one was willing to buy, but no one would say anything about it. I wouldn't even go near it. I blew
Yeah.
right through it along my patrol route, and when I would be on a foot, just walking on foot, I would steer clear away from that. That whole little area was just too creepy. It's like something about it was just telling me to stay away and not come near this house.
So San Antonio is filled with stories about places that are haunted. The Donkey Lady Bridge, the Devil Bridge. There's the Menger Hotel where there was this murder that happened. St. John Seminary. There's the St. John Seminary, which is vacant and abandoned today. Um, Apparently, there's some sort of story about people there conducting some sort of satanic rituals in the chapel. So, I mean, there's a lot of fascinating stories that we could be running down and trying to get the truth to,
We
or just
should,
present stories.
because debunking things here in Texas and like seeing if something's real or not, that's an urban legend, would be kind of cool. Would be kind of cool to do, and see if any of these things are real, if anything of these things are true. Especially Texas is such a big state. Such a large state that we have so many urban legends and stories that how do we know if any of these are true? And I know some people might be a little upset at us if we try to debunk these because these things go back, I mean, since before the Battle of the Alamo.
Yeah,
I mean, they go back to when people were living in mud huts down here, and they didn't even think Mexico was even a state or a country.
yeah. We didn't acknowledge Mexico. We were like, we're here to take over.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I always tell a little story because I mean, my family, we don't really know for sure, but we've had family here for years and years. I like telling a story that yeah, I had a family member that was at the Battle of the Alamo, although we don't know what side he was on, but he was there.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
do we know for sure? I mean, unfortunately, it's like truth becomes stories. Stories become legends and legends become myth.
and PG
And
Barton says, "When in doubt, print the legend."
exactly. And that's the thing. For many, many years, people didn't think the story of I want to say Robin Hood, but no, it's not Robin Hood. King Arthur. Many, many years people didn't think King Arthur was real. But what are we finding out now? What's being said about the European Historical Foundation? They're like, well, maybe he did exist. I mean, they're finding stories that he may have been a Roman officer.
Yeah,
I mean, look at Leif Erikson. For a long time, they weren't sure if he was real, but there were so many stories about him. They're like, well, you know what? Maybe he is real. And then they found his grave. It's
you
like,
mean the one who showed up way before Columbus ever did?
exactly.
Saying,
Exactly. I mean, the Vikings they discovered America first, and they actually landed in North America. I think it was more closer to Canada or somewhere in Canada, but that counts. That's still North America. I mean, it's a legend. It's a story. But legends were stories and stories were facts and facts were real at one point. I mean, 50, 80 years from now, people are going to be looking at this YouTube channel and be like, man, these guys were so bad. But
yeah,
a couple years down the road, people are going to be like, hey, these guys were really good. If these channels actually get off and going, I mean, people are going to be like, hey, their older stuff is a lot better. And they're going to be like, hey, you remember watching those videos about Doug and Justin? Those YouTubers? Yeah, man, their first few episodes sucked. But they got better. They got better.
what do you think of that as a first effort for a little mini thing, though?
I like it. I really like it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't lie. That little like 5 minute, 14-second bid took me 3 hours to make.
I believe it. I honestly believe it. And this video here is has already hit 20 minutes.
Well, I think that we've had our audience hang with us long enough because we know we're talking about retention and making sure that they can watch the entire video. So it's probably a good time to wrap this up.
All right, Doug, you want to take it away?
All right. So until next time, this is Doug,
And Justin.
and remember, kill that you.
All right, guys, have a great day and have a wonderful evening.